All eyes on Modi-Trump Milan. Mega meet within 30 days of Trump 2.0. Warm welcome for Prime Minister in DC. Stage set for the big bilateral. What's next in US-India relations? Top focus on 5 Live.
And news just coming in, DOD chief in the United States of America, Elon Musk, he's now one of the top US government officials, if I may, the way he's going after government machinery to clean up the system. Starlink chief, Tesla chief Elon Musk will be meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This is a meeting that is scheduled at 10 p.m. IST. We are told that Vivek Ramaswamy will also be coming to Blair House to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as well the US National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. He'll also be meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So a series of meetings scheduled for Prime Minister Narendra Modi before he meets US President Donald Trump at the White House. There's a bilateral meeting, there's a restricted format meeting, then there's a delegation level meeting, and this is the first meeting that's taking place within weeks of Donald Trump being sworn in as the President of the United States of America. And this is a very, very clear indication of the importance that both United States and India attach to this comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries. During Trump 1 era, the relationship had really moved forward, and especially on multiple issues, including Quad and the Indo-Pacific. Now it remains to be seen how this relationship is taken to the next level. Yes, there are challenges, but there are also opportunities, and we'll talk about that in greater detail. But what had Donald Trump, the Tesla chief, the Dodge head, the Department of Government Efficiency head, Elon Musk said about Prime Minister Narendra Modi earlier? Listen in.
I like him quite a lot. He visited our Fremont factory several years ago, and so we've now known each other for a while. I am a fan of Modi, so I have to say that. Well, I'm actually incredibly excited about the future of India. I think India has more promise than any large country in the world. He really cares about India because he's pushing us to make significant investments in India, which it is something that we intend to do.
So Donald Trump's big election message that saw him return to the White House after a gap of 4 years was Make America Great Again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a strong votary of Make in India. So is there common meeting ground, or will there be many challenges, because tariff remains a huge issue between America and India? Donald Trump has called India tariff king. At the same time, both of them are close friends, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump. I've covered both Howdy Modi in Houston, Texas, and Namaste Trump at Ahmedabad, Gujarat. How does this relationship now get taken forward? What's the big focus on? Energy requirements, defense requirements, illegal immigration remains a big niggle, trade is a big issue. But there are challenges, but there are also opportunities. I get you more in this report.
It's the most awaited meetup of the year. Prime Minister Modi is in Washington, D.C. for a 2-day visit to meet with US President Donald Trump, the first in less than a month since Trump began his second term in office. The Prime Minister is staying at Blair House, a luxurious and historic guest lodging for the dignitaries visiting the White House. Narendra Modi received a warm welcome by the diaspora in the winter chill. The Prime Minister's visit aims to strengthen the bilateral relationship, especially in areas like trade, defense, and technology.
The areas that I think are cutting edge right now and important to everybody, some core things like air platforms. India wants to upgrade its air force, some core capabilities like ground combat vehicles. But really the new areas are in space, in undersea technology, in autonomous technologies. These are areas where you see a willingness and an enthusiasm about really pushing an envelope, and I think we're going to see developments in all of that.
With concerns in New Delhi regarding Washington's America First trade agenda, a key priority for Prime Minister Modi will be to avoid punitive trade actions against India. Both leaders may explore a trade pact to avoid high tariffs and expand trade.
Thank you very much.
The Prime Minister's visit tomorrow, and I will let the President discuss the details on the reciprocal tariff front. But this is something he believes strongly in, and it's very simple logic as to why the President wants to impose reciprocal tariffs. It's the golden rule, which we all learned when we were growing up in school. Treat others the way you want to be treated. And far too many nations around this world have been ripping off the United States of America for far too long, and that's why the President believes this will be a great policy that will benefit American workers and improve our national security.
Soon after landing, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Tulsi Gabbard, the newly confirmed US Director of National Intelligence. He congratulated Gabbard on her confirmation. Prime Minister took to X to say that they discussed various aspects of the India-US friendship, of which Tulsi Gabbard has always been a strong votary. All eyes are now on the big Trump-Modi Milan, the 8th meeting since Donald Trump's first presidency in 2017.
Tulsi Gabbard now coming and meeting Prime Minister Modi at a time when the Indian agencies have been battling allegations against them and their officials by US authorities. And more importantly, what's going to become of Indo-US ties under Donald Trump and the Indian Premier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In Washington, D.C., Geeta Mohan for India Today.
And US President Donald Trump has just posted on Truth Social, he said 3 great weeks, perhaps the best, but today is the big one. Reciprocal tariffs make America great again. He's posted this ahead of his meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Truth Social. He says 3 great weeks. So it's been 3 weeks since he was sworn in as the President of the United States of America. Perhaps the best, but today is the big one. Reciprocal tariffs make America great again. I want to quickly cut across to India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan joining me with the latest from Washington, D.C. Geeta, it's extremely cold in the United States of America, but what should one make of this message?
Well, not so rather cold welcome for Prime Minister Modi, and the meetings spell out the importance of India and India-US ties. The first meeting with the top official was with Tulsi Gabbard. Gaurav, and it happened just hours after she took oath in the presence of President Donald Trump. She went and met called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And they are speaking of, and they did speak about intelligence sharing and real-time intelligence sharing. This comes at a time that there have been so many allegations against certain officials in the Indian intel agencies, and we'll have to see now how things pan out for India vis-a-vis these cases. Having said that, there are 3 very important meetings that are lined up this morning. The National Security Advisor, NSA Waltz, again, DOE chief, but also call him the Tesla chief,
yes.
Starlink, a lot of things that we'd like to do, that India would like to do with Elon Musk. Those conversations could come up. Not the first time that the two are going to meet. Elon Musk met with Prime Minister Modi in his previous visits as well. A lot of focus on whether if they can cooperate on the Starlink front. Sorry. As also the having Tesla come to India. So we'll await those conversations.
Okay.
But yes, there could be a conversation on what Doge really means and how the Indian Premier also has been focusing on making his government efficient. And then Vivek Ramaswamy, a man who has spoken highly of India, particularly Indians, Gaurav, much to the chagrin of some of the hardcore Republicans. And then there was an entire Twitter war between him and those influencers. Laura Loomer particularly, but somebody who really focuses and pitches for Indians, hardworking Indians working in the United States of America. These are the meetings that are lined up in the morning, which will be followed by the also important bilateral meeting.
What should we make of this big message? Today is the big one. Trump's message just before the meeting. Geeta, stay with me for a moment. Professor Brahmachalani joins us on the show. Dr. Tara Kartha also with me on the show. Professor Brahmachalani, what do you make of this message on Truth Social? 3 great weeks. Today's the big one. There are conversations on tariffs.
Well, the tariffs are broader. They are international in terms of their scope. But I think the concern in India that these tariffs are going to hit the Indian economy really hard, that concern is a bit exaggerated, because if you look at the trajectory of India's average tariff rate, it has come down from about 120 in the early 1990s to less than 5% currently in relation to imports from the US. So India can handle, the Indian economy can handle these reciprocal tariffs that Trump is about to impose. In fact, people don't seem to keep in mind that the biggest imports from the US are hydrocarbons, weapons, and gems.
Yes.
On which, on the first two, there are no tariffs. So looking at the larger picture, I think this concern about reciprocal tariffs and how they're going to hit India very hard should be seen in context of the actual trade, what India trades with the US, and I think this is manageable. The most important thing, I think, is that for Trump and Modi is to restore this relationship, restore the relationship that was thriving in Trump's first term, but came on this train during Joe Biden's presidency.
And I'll come to that in just a moment. You're absolutely right. It needs to be repaired. Issues of the deep state and what was happening towards the end of Joe Biden's tenure has been a cause for grave concern, especially in India and especially amongst the strategic community. But stay with me, Professor Chelani. Dr. Tara Kartha, what Donald Trump has just put out on Truth Social, is this meant more for America's internal audience, because he's come on the platform of Make America Great Again. He's talked about tariffs. How much does it actually impact India, or does this impact his own people more, that he's sending out a message, I'm firm? He's called India tariff king in the past.
Yeah, it is obviously something to do with his domestic audience as well. And I mean, this was expected, right? It's not like it was something new that we didn't think would happen. It's not just against India alone. So it's not India targeting by any means. But we've had problems in the past, especially where wheat was concerned, where we didn't, last year when we had a drop in wheat production, we could not export as much as we normally did. So this year also, if you look at the US agricultural, the office, they've predicted that our wheat production could take a hit. So these are small problems which take place. There are marginal tariffs on oil imports, very marginal. So that's not an issue. All you need to is up it, which I think they're already going to do. So that's already in the works. And I think Delhi has been very upfront in dealing with this before it comes. Before the issue arises, they go out and try and deal with it by, like we said, in reducing tariffs earlier itself in the budget. There's a whole slab has been taken out.
Yes.
So those, nonetheless, I think the fact that he hopefully will not want to make it into a public issue to burnish his first 100 days, the first 100 days of Trump, that could be a factor regardless of what there is on the ground.
Okay, because a lot of this is optics for his domestic audience. This is the second time he's been elected president. He wants to leave a legacy. But what are the biggest challenges? What would be India's big challenges today in your appreciation, Professor Chilani?
I think the big challenge for India is to ensure that US policy in relation to countries in India's immediate neighborhood is in sync with India's interests rather than working against India's interests. That's the primary concern for India, that under Joe Biden, we saw how US policy toward Myanmar, Bangladesh, and Pakistan became antithetical to Indian interests. That has to change, because if US and India are going to be close strategic partners building a stable balance of power in Asia, they need to work together in India's own neighborhood. The US can't be working against India's interests and expecting India
Absolutely
to contribute to Asian and international security. So the reason why, it's very significant that Modi's first meeting was with Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is going to be very important now, because there are these issues that are left over from the Biden administration. The two politically sticky indictments, one against Gautam Adani, one against a former Indian intelligence officer.
Yeah.
Then the issue of Bangladesh, the issue of providing arms to Myanmar rebels. This is where Tulsi Gabbard can play a helpful role, because she understands the importance of India in the larger scheme of things, and I think even Trump understands why the relationship with India is critical.
Very important points that you're raising there. Did you agree, Dr. Tarakartha, the big challenges for India to ensure foreign policy is in sync? Would US policy towards China be a cause for concern, or are we seeing a different, what's happening with vis-a-vis Russia and Ukraine is in sync with what our thinking is? How do you see this meeting pan out?
I think in terms of Russia, Ukraine, yes. I mean, if he's already reached out towards Ukraine, he wants to end the war. That war has hurt us in multiple ways. So, it's not just about, Russian defense deals. There's a whole economic impact which we really suffered from. So an end there is great. In terms of China, I'll tell you, he's going to make the noises about, I had this great meeting and all the rest of it will continue. But there's a fundamental aspect to even Trump's first national security, his national security document, is that the US must remain the primary power.
Yes.
That will not change, no matter who comes, actually. So that is, there is no question of accommodating China. So I don't know how people say, oh, you don't know how. They will not let China come up. It's against basic US policy. The question is, how will they do it? And that is where we may have a slight difference, because, well, they may want you to have a more proactive approach on China, which I don't know how this is going to go forward.
But for that, we have to be better armed and with the latest weapons to be stronger. And that would mean closer cooperation on defense, trade and technology and high-end technology. Do you see forward movement on that, Professor Chilani? We are still waiting for the General Electric engines for our fighter jets. Do you see forward movement on that, manufacturing of those engines in India, or is that a pipe dream as of now?
India is seeking to move from importing weapon systems to co-production, so that industrial capacity and jobs are created in India. And that's where the real challenge is, because in terms of arms imports, India is already the world's largest importer of arms. And given the fact that India's overall trade deficit has widened to such an extent that it's depreciating the rupee, it's having a very adverse impact in general on the economy. You can't keep buying billions of dollars worth of weapons.
Yes.
Without seeking to bolster your own economic strength at home. That's where I think the big challenge lies for the Modi government, is to, for example, Trump has emphasized that India buy more hydrocarbons and buy more American weapons. But these two are already the biggest items in India's trade with the US. So there isn't much room, even though there might be a deal or two, a big deal coming out of not this visit maybe, but coming in the coming months, there might be a big defense deal or two. But looking ahead, there isn't much room for India to keep buying weapons off the shelf. India has to persuade the US to co-produce weapon systems in India.
Absolutely. Whether that happens with France, whether that happens with Russia, or that happens with the United States of America, co-production in India is that big aspect. And though I've run out of time on this part of the show, Professor Chilani and Dr. Tara Kartha, but through the evening today and till 2:30 in the morning, when that meeting takes place on India Today, we will continue to get you the latest on this very important meeting that Prime Minister Narendra Modi also talks about shouldn't just impact India and America positively, but should have a greater impact on the entire world. That's what we'll be tracking closely.